Hello all. Today I will be reviewing the Walthers Trainline F40ph and Amtrak's Phase 3 paint scheme. As you see here, it's standard Walthers Trainline packaging. This is a release from quite a few years ago. As you may know, they're doing a re-release of these, but in the mainline series later this year, which will be pretty similar to this. It will have a proto drive rather than the standard Trainline drive, which the Trainline drive itself is a pretty reliable drive, but the proto one is phenomenal. But for the locomotive, at its time, it was still a pretty darn good locomotive. The main differences between the mainline and the Trainline version is that this one doesn't come with the railings on the side but the doors, and the rear handrails are already applied in the back, and slightly better packaging. And of course the mainline packaging too. Besides that, standard Trainline packaging. Once again, you have the picture in the back, Amtrak Phase 3 F40ph locomotive. And besides that, we can start getting it out of the box. Actually, I changed my mind. I'll take the locomotive out of the box on camera. So if you happen to get one of these secondhand, or you want to compare this to the mainline one, what it looks like when you get out of the box, you'll have this video to know. So you can just take it out on this side, since this side is not the one taped shut. So pull that tab out, and you pull the styrofoam. And then there's this paper, these two papers in the back. Before you look at the locomotive, this is the box empty, everything's out, so you can just put that to the side. I wouldn't throw it away, so you can actually store this properly later. This is the normal thing that comes with all Walthers freight cars, passenger cars, locomotives. Same warranty information, spare parts, so on, so on. Just keep this handy if you need something replaced or fixed. Then here's this thing, well, not thing, this piece of paper that has a diagram of how to maintenance this thing and where you should add all your parts and stuff. So look at that real quick, pause it if you need to read it. Besides that, that's pretty nice that they include that. Not every manufacturer does that, surprisingly. And here's the locomotive right here. Let's move this tape right here. Right here. To the side, and let's see what you have here. We have the handrails for the side, and some other railings and stuff, as you may see. So I'll add those later. So that's the side. And here, now I can finally take the locomotive out of the packaging. You see on the other side, there's this hole in the back. So you can just gently push that out, grab it by the hand, make sure you're not grabbing any parts that you shouldn't. And here you go. Then you can take the plastic off. And then you have this glorious locomotive without the plastic. Oh, as you may tell, the plow actually came off, so I think I might tab back in. If not, I'll have to glue it. But the plow did come off just now. So I guess that's one thing to look out for if you have to get the second hand. But I'll think it'll go right back on. But now that I got it out of the packaging, we can take a closer look of the locomotive. Now with the F40ph out of the box and it's put down, you can take a better look at it. I put the plow back on. It just snaps back in. There's two holes under here where the two pegs go in. So you just put that back on if it comes off quite easily, which I do appreciate that, not having a huge glob of glue on it. Because that's usually a QC problem some manufacturers have. But before we're going first, the locomotive does not have windshield wipers. I don't think those are included in the bag. But that's not too hard of a part to obtain yourself, so you might want to get some of those because that'll look nice. As you see, a lot of molded on detail on the roof. Bring it closer. Molded on detail onto the roof. I think it looks pretty nice. Nothing that looks overly chunky. If you look at the fan detail, for these being molded pieces, they look pretty nice. They don't look anything too crazy, but nothing that looks totally unrealistic either. So, good job, the Walthers, on their molding. The underframe, pretty standard underbody detail. You might want to add something else, but I think it's pretty decent for it being a Trainline. Walthers' lowest tier of details. mainly just be locomotives that can run nice, and detail is usually an afterthought. So here's the other side, a little bit more detail. You can see the sand tanks here and some other valves, and here's the fuel tank. The trucks are also very finely rendered. I must admit, those are some pretty decent trucks for a locomotive of this type, being how more budget focused this is. Very nice trucks. And I guess I glanced over the front of this a bit much, because the front's usually the part you want to see the most in F40ph. So, if you look here, looks quite nice. If you want to add ditch lights, you're going to have to drill them out yourself, because Walthers has never provided it with the ditch lights already installed. So if you're modeling a later era of F40ph, that's something you might want to do. As a Bachmann easy make coupler as far as I can tell, so you might want to change that if you're pulling heavier trains or bumping this thing around. Then the same for the rear, Bachmann easy make coupler. A lot of the details for the rear are going to be in the bag, which is this. It should be in the box if you happen to get these, but if you do happen to get a mainline one, all this will be installed for you. And look at the back. You have spots ready for you to put grab irons and stuff in, which is nice for them to do that. There's a hole for mounting the handrails in the back, and there are pilot, which you might want to add MU cables and so on if you so desire. But that's it for the details of it. It's pretty basic, but all the details that are there are pretty true to the prototype and are finely rendered. So the last thing, before I run it, I would like to do a comparison with a locomotive that a lot of people do compare to this one, is the the Bachmann Spectrum F40ph from the 90s. Put that to the side over here. If you look at them, both same paint scheme. You can see they both took a different approach. So at the 90s, this is what the best Bachmann could offer. They're both DC locomotives, but Bachmann added these two strobes or beacons. I guess they're more strobe lights to the model. So when you run it at a high enough voltage, both of these will flash together. It has molded on windshield wipers, which that one doesn't have, but molded on windshield wipers that aren't painted are pretty hard to paint. So I wouldn't really call that too much of a plus, because that'll be really hard to paint if you desired. This one has MU cables, but they're molded on and they look kind of weird. They look more like grooves than MU cables, to be honest. If you look at the detail on the roof, it looks pretty basic in comparison to the Walthers one. So I'd keep that in mind if you do happen to have one of these or look at getting it. The Walthers one is a bit better. And let's compare them side by side lengthwise. If you look at them, they seem about the same, but the Bachmann Spectrum one seems to be shorter, which is by like quite a measurable bit, which is very interesting. So I'd think the Bachmann one isn't too realistic. Look at them. Yeah, it's pretty short. And then also, if you look at the paint scheme for Amtrak, this one looks much nicer and more like the prototype than this one. But besides that, I think that's all I'm really going to compare on those. And I'd assume the Walthers drive to be pretty good, because the Spectrum one is a little iffy, but it's definitely the better of what Bachmann had to offer from that time period. And then, since if you're going to have this Walthers Trainline F40ph, you're probably going to run some Walthers cars with it. So here's a Walthers mainline car. This is a sleeper. It's from a release from about a year ago. If you look at them paint-wise, they seem to go together quite well. So Walthers is pretty consistent with their paint, which is lovely. If we were to couple them together, this is kind of what they look like. Like that. So they look pretty good together, I'd say. So I guess all that's left is to see the locomotive running, and then I'll conclude the video. Now I have the locomotive on the track. One thing I will note, the plow in the front came off again. So I'd probably recommend gluing that in place if you get the chance. So before I run it, I'm going to hold this in place and give it some power. So you can look at the headlight. Nice bright light. I don't think it's LED, it's probably incandescent, but I still think it looks pretty nice. And then, came off the track. And then for reverse, I'll hold it in place. Oh, that's not reverse. And then same case, it has a very nice bright light. Very good light. So, before we run it, I'll couple it up to some passenger cars. I still haven't put any of the detail parts on. I'm just trying to show what it looks like when you get it out the box. I'll probably do a later video covering the details of it, but for just this review, I'm just showing you what you get out of the box. So now that it's coupled to its consist, I guess we can run it around. It's a pretty smooth run around, must admit. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any more questions or recommendations for further videos or anything related to this video, please leave it down in the comment section, and I'll be seeing y'all later.